here's the thing. Am I to assume that if you're not a president mentioned in this book, that you never did anything that might end you up in this book?
No, there's just some people that we know that there's nothing available on. And we're not going to do a chapter on anybody that we can't source it, where you can turn to the back of the book and find out what our sourcing is and where we get our information from. But, and there was also some very boring presidents.
Who was the most boring?
Probably Fillmore, I guess. But people also ask me, who's the biggest philanderer of them all as far as presidents go? And I don't say it's a toss-up between Warren Harding and Jack Kennedy. And it's said about Harding, comparing him to Wilson, is that the difference between the two is Wilson preferred the brothels of Paris and Harding preferred the whorehouses of Columbus, Ohio. But Kennedy, in his I grew up in the Kennedy area with all that mystique, Camelot, all of this. And it was just so depressing what we were working on, because we had several chapters on the Kennedy. And once I got finished, I could understand everything. I didn't mean I have to accept it, but I could understand it. That President Kennedy, he loved the starlets like Marilyn, Marlena Dietrich, Angie Dickinson, those caliber of women. And those were his trophy women, and those are the ones he used to like to bed. And here you got the guy with the highest profile in the world wanting to sleep with the highest profile women in the world. So you should know that's, a disaster, looking for a place to happen. But, Jackie Kennedy was treated like...
She was she actually had the long and ongoing affair with Bobby Kennedy, which was not
okay. Wow. But...
Correct.
But, I'll get to that in a second. But Jackie was treated like royalty by American women in the 60s. And to find out that she was having affairs even before the president was assassinated was kind of like a big letdown. But because the American people had entrusted her with such, awe, I guess you would say, that she would let them down like that. And as she said, after the assassination, she became very much involved with Bobby Kennedy, Jack Kennedy's brother, her husband. She had several different affairs with financiers, and the guy who designed the Eternal Flame, where Kennedy was later asked to Washington, D.C., that architect, she had a long-standing affair with him. And also Robert McNamara, who was Secretary of Defense at the time her husband was president. So Camelot seemed overnight to sort of turn into trailer park trash.
Do you, how sharp of a connection do you think that you can be made between these relationships and the sort of major events that happen in the country? I mean, you were talking earlier about Wilson, right? And or you could talk about Lincoln and the Civil War, or how sharp and strong a connection do you think there are between these relationships? And
Well, you know,
major,
probably the best one, even a better one than Wilson, is when Eleanor Roosevelt called Franklin cheating. It was in 1919. She never shared a bed with him after that. And they decided to stay, you know, together basically for political reasons, because Franklin's mother said, if you divorce Eleanor, I'm cutting you out of the will. And so they made a deal which Franklin could keep half the bargain. First, he couldn't see Lucy Mercer anymore. And the second one was that Eleanor would never share a bed with him again. That one he could keep. But then there was two women, Missy and Lucy, in the White House that were like really acting first ladies. And Franklin really drew the strength from them to get us through the Depression and World War II. I honestly believe that, because he was paralyzed from polio, and he was very weak. He wasn't in good health, you know, most of his life as president. So he needed these women that he could really rely on, and gave him the strength that they did. And of course, Eleanor, it became better for her in a sense, because she met some feminist friends and lesbians, and they kind of turned her around, because she was against women's rights, against civil rights. She was against everything, you know, in the beginning. And they got Eleanor to see it a different way. But one remark that I thought was very telling about Eleanor, she was talking to a group of women one day, and she said, women must understand that sex is something they have to endure. And I thought to myself, for Eleanor Roosevelt to make that comment, and at the same time have 6 children with Franklin, it wasn't a very rewarding experience.
well, let me ask you one more question, and then we'll let you guys ask some questions. What do you think that is the lesson that we can learn from this going forward? From all the information that you've written about, what is the lesson moving forward?
Well, first of all, I'm interested in history. I think we all are to a certain degree, but you know, we've got to learn to sort of like let go, because people are going to always fool around. I think you need to focus more on what kind of job people are doing, rather than who they're doing it to. I think the more transparency that we have in government, the better it is. I think we're entitled to know everything. If someone decides they're going to run for public office, you see, you become a public figure because you select a particular profession, or because you place yourself in the limelight as a result of something you do. So people that want to cry that they don't have any privacy and what a bitch fame is, you know, when they reached out for it, you know, you got to know what you're getting into, and that the public has the right to scrutinize everything you stand for. You know, values are very important, and although I don't think that you're supposed to be imposing your values on other people, but you've got one presidential candidate, and